everybody, Josh here. It's in a World Alternative Media here, and people will be forced vaccinated, whether it's voluntary or enforced. And by voluntary, I mean you won't have a choice, but it'll appear voluntary. You won't be able to get a bank account, or you won't be able to go to the store or get a job, or travel or do anything really for that matter without being vaccinated for COVID-19 and possibly the future mutated versions, and possibly multiple times in a row. They're talking about possibly one inoculation every month. This is absolutely insanity. We see this tweet that I shared earlier that says they're going for the forced vaccines, everyone. And it shows Theresa Tam out of Canada, Canada's version of Dr. Fauci, saying no one is protected until everyone is protected. By protected, they mean literally the opposite, of course, because we're in the age of complete Orwellian doublespeak at this time. There's very disturbing news coming out, and we got these articles coming out of places like MSN, which says this: first COVID vaccines likely to be imperfect and might not prevent infection. Well, that's just jolly, isn't it? Oh, you might just get like brain damage or possibly die, but it's for the greater good of the greater number, and you're the guinea pig and you're the pawn to be sacrificed for the king and the queen, so just go along with it so we can protect everyone under this guise of saving life on Earth, when really what they're kind of aiming for is eugenics. Bill Gates goes from talking about depopulating the earth to suddenly wanting to save it with all these vaccines that have killed all these people around the world and made so many people paralyzed with the polio vaccines in places like India and throughout Africa. That's why so many people hate him there. They were calling for possibly his arrest in Italy earlier this year, but now they're doing another lockdown while people riot in the streets. There's huge talk everywhere about the second lockdown, which we've been predicting since March, before the first lockdown even happened. My friends, at what point do people realize that maybe we're right and the mainstream media is wrong? The mainstream media, which makes billions of dollars off of these big pharma corporations, number one, and then us in the independent media that are being silenced left and right by tech oligarchs for speaking. Like we are giving up everything we have, everything we have in life, all of our work and all of our efforts in order to warn people about that. I wonder who's right, us or these guys that are, making all this money off of big pharma corporations. By the way, big pharma corporations making hundreds of billions of dollars off of this. And Bill Gates last year saying right before we entered the year, I think it was around New Year's Eve or something last year, that he's looking forward to a great vaccine portfolio exploding in the year 2020, smiley face. I mean, this is where we're at. And of course, Bill Gates was competing for the contract for the contact tracing app back last year before any of this broke. Funny how that happens, isn't it? He was competing very hard to get his contact tracing app patent, and it's right at around the same time 1 year ago when we saw Event 201 happen, which was their simulation of this exact same thing happening this year, of this coronavirus spreading worldwide and causing lockdowns worldwide. It's funny how coincidental that is, because if you believe in coincidences. I want to also point out that we have articles like this out of National Geographic, which basically quantify everything I've been saying this year. It says COVID-19 vaccines could become mandatory. Here's how it might work. How jolly. Again, it says, after a COVID-19 vaccine is available, you may need to get inoculated to go to the office, attend a sporting event, or even get a seat at a restaurant. Well, I mean, it's like they're watching my videos and copying whatever I say. Maybe I should stop talking. It's interesting because, as I mentioned before, and people call me crazy for years for saying this, they would unroll a social credit system like in China. The social credit system would mean that if you criticize a government like in China, that you'll get a lower social credit score. If you get a lower social credit score, you won't be able to spend money in many places. They already have this in China, where even if you can't travel if you have a low enough social credit score. If it's just high enough but still very low, you can go on an airplane, but they blast high-pitched blaring frequency into your ear like a dog whistle so that you feel sick. Just horrible, evil stuff. With Sesame credit, or social credit rather, basically it's a technocratic approach of a cashless society. If your money's in the banks, folks, it's not yours, it's a bank's. If your money's always going through the banks via digital transactions, legal tender laws, by fiat, by law, it's never your money, it's always a bank's, and you are essentially enslaved to the government and the banking system. Utilizing this with social credit. It means that you can or cannot have a bank account based on your social credit score. You can or cannot spend money in places. You can't travel. You can't go to restaurants. You can't go to school. You can't get a job. You can't buy a home. You're basically screwed. You're forced into starvation if you don't toe the line of the government. Now, with this, they're going to implement the number one thing, I believe, with this, other than facial recognition, which they're testing with the masks, is the vaccines. They won't force you like at gunpoint, because obviously that would be very unpopular, though some countries in the world might do that. What they're going to do is they're going to do it by consent, slavery by consent, which is basically people being unwittingly fooled into buying into the slavery, bowing down, and getting the vaccine in order to be able to go to work, in order to go and do all these things. Now, a lot of people will be resistant, but how many of them will give up their family, their children, to child protective services and child family services, and if you're in Canada and places like that, social services, if they don't give their kid a vaccine? And that's how they'll get you, by your kids and by you're not being able to have money and spend money and have a bank account. And they're clearly doing that. And I've been talking about it for many years, long before any of this COVID stuff happened. And all year I've been warning about it. And now even National Geographic saying, well, this is probably how it's going to happen. As you know, one of the Rothschilds sits on their board. Guys, when are you going to take it seriously? And I know a lot of you have, but I mean, when is it going to get to the point where people actually defend themselves? The number one thing people could do is live by example, live free. Freedom is responsibility, individual responsibility, I should add. Of course, you have people like Angela Merkel, and I'll bring up the article here, saying freedom isn't being able to do whatever you want. Freedom is taking responsibility. No, she's saying taking responsibility collectively. So that's Orwellian doublespeak. Freedom is individualistic responsibility. Slavery is collective responsibility, your responsibility to a cult, to a collective. That is slavery, my friends. And as they unroll this technocracy worldwide, people are willingly going to fall into that collective responsibility mantra. The greater good of the greater number, as they say. It's the old collectivist mantra that's been going on for centuries. And that will lead to the biggest tyrannical takeover of mankind in the history of the world. Worldwide, global technocracy. We're talking Logan's Run. Do something now, or forever hold your peace. This vaccine's coming. They're already showing huge problems in the studies. In AstraZeneca, showing brain damage, death. They're going to tone it down a little bit from there. Then tell you have to get one every month, or else your social credit score goes down. It's to protect old people, trust me. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up getting stupider. It's going to lower your IQ. It's going to make you dumb. It's pretty clear that it's going to have neurological side effects. They're not going to be enough that it's going to be like blatant, but it's going to be enough that it slowly stupefies you over the years. And I mean, where will they stop? Government benefits from growing always. The biggest thing the government can possibly have to their advantage is growing and being more powerful. They don't want to shrink themselves. They're not going to give you freedom. They're only going to take it away, as long as you allow it to be taken away, as is your responsibility. So they start with masks, then they lead their way up to vaccines. Then where do they stop? Disappearing the journalists? Killing them? They've already erased us from most of the internet. They've deleted us from YouTube. We're just on BitChute, Library/Odyssey, and Float.app at this point. Where are they going to stop? While everyone's distracted by elections that are a complete sham, all fake, all to keep us complacent, apathetic, on our knees, begging for a master to save us from another master. Don't have masters. Be free. Live by example. Disobey. Be responsible. Be self-sustainable. But I could shout this off the top of a mountain for my entire life, and still 99.99999% of people won't give a damn, because they want to be comfortable. They are accustomed to being ruled. And there's very little I can do about that. I got to focus on myself, just like you have to focus on yourself. Protecting yourself, protecting your family. This is a violent takeover of mankind under the guise of saving mankind from violence. This is a violent an unhealthy takeover of mankind under the guise of stopping the unhealth and stopping people from being unhealthy. Take it as you will. I really appreciate everyone watching. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the notification bell on BitChute, and of course, share on social media to get around this insanity of the censorship that we're witnessing right now. We're completely viewer-funded. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We have a Bitcoin address which will show up at the end of this video. Of course, it's linked below as well in the description, as well as a Cointree link, which will lead you to all of our different cryptocurrencies that you can donate in. We really appreciate it, my friends. We are on iamband.com. Just go to www.iamband.com. Join our newsletter. It takes 2 seconds. We really appreciate it, my friends. We got a Teespring store with our merchandise, and we have a whole bunch of stuff down there that link below, so we hope you check that out. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. We also have a commercial coming up with Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, one of our co-hosts here at WAM, who is a certified financial planner who's very unconventional and hates central banks, which you won't find a lot. So if you're interested in getting involved with him, go to thelibertyadvisor.com and become a client. Anyways, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Hi, this is Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and if you're looking for a financial advisor who gets it, who knows what's going on, I'm here at Jekyll Island, Georgia. Right behind me is the Jekyll Island Club, which is where the plan for the Federal Reserve was hatched in 1910 and ultimately put into place December 23rd, 1913. Now, most advisors have no idea about the Federal Reserve. They have no idea, the insidious nature of it, and and more importantly, they don't know how to protect you and your family's money. And really, it's not even about your money. It's about your quality of life. It's about putting you on a path to be able to protect yourself for what's coming down in the future. Now, if you don't know the past, you're not going to be able to know what's coming down the pipeline. They put all the clues out in front of us. It's very obvious what's coming. But for most advisors, I would say probably 99% of them, they have no idea what's going on. They're incentivized to not talk about this stuff. They're not allowed to talk about this stuff, and even if they would be allowed to talk about this stuff, they're not, because it's not great for business. Well, I'm a guy that's been putting myself out there for over a decade to try to help you and your family put you on a better path. So if you have an old 401k, an old IRA, you're about to retire, please check out thelibertyadvisor.com. You can see all the different ways that I am different from the average advisor who is out there, so that way we can help put you and your family on a much better path towards achieving all of your retirement goals. Thank you.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.